Welcome to the One Hand at a Time podcast. I'm your host, Chris Welton, and today is going to be a little bit of a different episode for you. I had the pleasure of speaking on a stage in Charleston, South Carolina, giving a keynote from the I Love Coaching Summit 2024. Some of you that have been following me for a couple years remember one of the first podcasts we ever did was a replay of my first time ever speaking at an event. It was the I Love Coaching Summit 2022. Here we go again. I'm the only person that's ever been invited back to speak at this event, so I'm on stage for a second time. This was an interesting event to speak at for me. I had been in the hospital for 5 or 6 days. I wasn't feeling well. I had a lot of pain. And as you'll hear, unfortunately, I was on pain meds during this. But I think it's a very important message that I need to relay, an experience that I had while I was in the hospital that totally changed the way I was thinking about my life. And I cannot wait to share that story with you. So please check this out, and I hope you enjoy it.
So let's give it up for Mr. Chris Welton, everybody, right here. I'm mic'd up, I think. You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah. Okay. Got him. Yeah. No, one-arm guys can't use those mics. I'm sorry. I do too much of this stuff here to do that. So, wow, it's really cool to watch that video, right? I look at that and I can't believe that's me. What has happened over the last couple of years. This is going to be something like you haven't experienced before with someone on stage. This is not me giving up here giving a keynote. This is me having a conversation with you and you and you and maybe somebody in the back. See, I had this all mapped out months ago when we agreed that I could have a chance to get on stage here again. Because Adam gave me my first break ever to put me on a stage 2 years ago. And I told him I would come speak for him for free for as long as he wanted me to. So here we are today. But as we make plans, things pop up and things change. We thought we had it all figured out. Something shifts. Strength through adversity is something I've lived my whole life. See, I was born with a limb difference. I faced adversity before I even was born. My mom was a heroin addict. I didn't realize that prepared me for the things I was going to take on later in life. But 2.5 weeks ago, I'm preparing to go to this event in Puerto Rico. An event I've been looking forward to since they announced it the prior year. I get to spend time with some of the most elite business people in the country. I get to hang out with a guy named Tim Tebow. I don't know if you know who that is or not, but in my opinion, the best college football player ever. If you argue with me, we're not going to listen to that. So. And also with a guy named Tim Grover. Tim Grover is Michael Jordan's coach. Michael Jordan's coach. If you can tell, I'm obviously a Michael Jordan fan. 2 days before we're supposed to leave, I live in the Sunshine State. We start getting all this information about this hurricane that's coming. And it starts getting worse and worse and worse. See, I have a beautiful wife and a 10-month-old son. And we made the decision the night before I'm supposed to fly out that I need to stay. Because we don't know what's going to happen. Those of you who live in hurricane areas, you understand. But a Cat 5 hurricane is the real deal. It's very scary. And then to have a baby involved. Just me and my wife, we've been fine. So I ride out the storm. Thank goodness we didn't get any damage. We made it through. It was a scary long night. But when things really started to change was the next morning. I started to have a little pain right here in my chest, right below my sternum. I didn't think anything of it. I know I don't look like Alan, but I do go to the gym a lot. And I thought maybe I just had a strained oblique or something, or the hurricane snacks, maybe a little too much of those. Then it started to spread. And then it got worse. Then it was sharp pain. And I have a pretty high pain tolerance. Oh, my wife, she's watching from home. She might not say that's the truth, but I feel like I do. So I'm working through the pain. And all of a sudden, I'm doubled over on the bed. I said, I need you to take me to the ER. So we get in the car and we head off to the ER. We get there, and they start running me through all these tests. I'm a 52-year-old man who comes in with some pain. Of course, they think I'm having a heart attack, and which you do get to the front of the line when they do that, which is nice. So they run me through all these tests, CAT scan, ultrasound, blood work. They give me a shot of morphine to numb the pain. Pain doesn't go away. About 4 hours later, they come to me and they say, we have no idea what's wrong with you. You should talk to your gastro doctor on Monday. Have a nice day. So I get up off the bed, we go home. The pain starts to get a little worse day after day. Monday morning, my wife's at work. And then my wife's in medicine, so she's really smart. I call her, I said, hey, I need to go to the ER again. So I drove myself to the ER. I'm back in the same ER. I said, I need you to admit me to the hospital. Like, I don't know anybody ever asked to be admitted, but you need to admit me. I need to figure out what's going on. They said, okay, we'll put you in the hospital. They transport me to the hospital because I was at one of those standalone ERs. I get to the hospital, and they put me in this overflow unit where I'm literally in what looks like a storage closet with a curtain for 24 hours with no TV, nothing. And they're blood testing me and doing more tests. They finally moved me up to this floor called the PACU because they still can't figure out what's wrong. They have all these doctors coming in to see me. More tests. They have this thing called a HIDA scan. I had to lay on a bed for 2 hours. 2 hours. And I'm in so much pain. It started here. By this time, it's up in my chest, around my back. And I can't get comfortable, but I can't move for 2 hours. But when you don't know what's going on, you're going to lay there for 2 hours, right? Like, you're going to suck it up, right? So they take me back. They still can't figure it out. Then something really weird happened that night. I've never had a conversation like this with anybody except my wife. So bear with me. One o'clock in the morning, I hear a code blue called. It's the room next door to mine, 306. I'm in 308. This is an old hospital I'm at. I can hear them working on this person through the wall. He doesn't make it. 20 minutes later, down the hall, another code blue. He doesn't make it either. At this time, I'm doing this. I'm walking around my room, trying to figure out what my next move is going to be. I want to get out of here, man. Like, I didn't come here to die. But it sure seems like the theme on the hall right now. Right? Like, it scares me. I got down on my knees and I prayed. I can honestly tell you I've only done that maybe 2 or 3 times in my whole life. But I got on my knees and I prayed. And I said, if you will get me out of here, I will do anything I can to impact more people. The next day happens. The next day happens. Friday, they come to me and they say, you're going home today. Like, okay. How's your pain? I said, well, you only let it go up to a scale of 10, so it's still a 10. I'm currently, just so you know, on hydrocodone as I stand here today. My pain is above a 10. They package me up and send me home. You're on your own. What I've learned from that so far is that it's not only strength through adversity, but how can I turn that into something positive, right? So if you're going through a struggle right now, if you feel something you have an adverse situation, how can we turn that into something better? See, I had a simple choice. I leave the hospital, I go right and I wallow in my sorrows and I have chronic pain forever. I cancel this event, I don't do what I'm supposed to do, and I go on down that way. Because we know a lot of people have done that, right? Right? I mean, it's easy to do that. Or I can try to find strength from what I'm going through right now and impact one person in this room today that may be going through something similar. Those of you that know me or have worked with me or have had a chance to have conversations know that I like to do this thing where I define success for everything I do. I know it's super weird. My wife's like, I define success on what dinner is going to be like. Okay, that's a successful dinner. But I defined success before I got on stage this morning as impacting one person positively. put me in a room of 300 or 3,000. If one person walks away and says, you know what, I heard what Chris was saying to me. He connected to me on a level that's going to help me get through something else. You know, it's not about being, you know, a lot of times people talk about adversity in a way that they become a victim of adversity, right? All bad things are happening to the same person over and over again. But what I realized that moment when I was on my knees praying, excuse me if I jump around a little bit, that might be the hydrocodone. Just, my timelines are a little off. But I shared this with Tim Winter last night when we were standing in the kitchen at Adam's house, that I had been through so many things in my life that were adversities, and I thought I'd gotten through them alone because I just kind of built the calluses to it, right? Like these mental calluses, and pushed myself to get through this. But when I realized that there was someone else with me now, I got to tell you something. I'm a dangerous individual now. Like, not like I'm going to attack you, but like you're not going to beat me, right? Like now that I realize it's not just me standing here, that I've got someone else to help me, and they've been there all along, but I just never gave them credit for that. What can I do now? What's the next thing I'm going to do? So when you're in that hide-a-scan bed and for 2 hours, you have clarity, right? Like you can lay there for 2 hours and you can think. And it was like this amazing time for me just to process my brain. Excuse me. And then Tuesday night, my 10-month-old son was sick for the first time. Everybody's got kids, you remember that, right? The first time they're sick, it's like, stop the world, right? My kid's never been sick. This is the scariest thing ever. So he's a little sick, and he can't lay down. He can't sleep without coughing. So I had the most amazing experience Tuesday night. I took my son, I sat in the nursery in the recliner so my wife could sleep. And I held Leo from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. while I was wide awake and he was asleep. In the dark with the noise machine playing. I unpacked more things about my life in that 5-hour period than I ever had before. I've always been somebody who likes to meditate, get in my vision, those types of things. But you may tell you something, 5 hours of silence? Man, I got a lot of work ahead of me. There's so much more to do. When I tell you that I had to recreate this thing in the last few days, I'm not kidding. I had it all mapped out. I had all these slides and all these extra videos and all this stuff. I'm going to blow the crowd away, right? This morning, I wake up and I'm in an incredible amount of pain. I text Adam. I said, man, I'm going to get there. I'm slow. Then I reached out to Ben Newman, who's my other coach, who was the gentleman that was kind enough to talk about me on the screen earlier. I texted him. I said, I need you, brother. He called me right away. The next thing I want to talk about is the power of belief. I've always believed that I could do great things because my grandma told me I would, right? My grandma always told me I was special. But there's nothing more powerful than someone else telling you they believe in you and they know that you can do it. It's called the transference of belief, right? The things that I've been able to accomplish over the last couple of years because of the transference of belief from Adam Roach, who's a guy that I didn't even know who he was. He was on a podcast of my old coach, literally. My old coach said he wasn't coaching me anymore. He was going to do something else. 2 weeks later, Adam's on his podcast. So I called Adam. I said, hey, man, I need a coach. And took off that relationship. He believes in me. He gets on the call. He believes in me. My wife believes in me. Number one fan. She is my number one fan. Even when I do something really bad, she's like, oh, it's okay. I'm like, no, I gotta be able to get on myself a little bit, right? But the belief that we get when we believe in ourselves and then we're able to bounce that off others and comes back to you, there's nothing more valuable than that. So I do this thing called connecting with my burn. My burn is when my passion and my purpose and my why ignite. There's somebody like, what's your why? What's your why? Well, there's a little cliche sometimes, but what's your purpose and your why and how they ignite? What is it that helps you when you need to get to the finish line, and even more so you connect to when you've won? Because how many times, there's a lot of realtors and people in this space here, have had a killer month, And then our next month wasn't very good. Any hands? Well, you guys are almost all superstars. Nobody wants to admit it. Okay, well, for me, I've had incredible times and then bad times because I didn't connect to my burn. Can you play that burn video for me, please?
In this quiet moment, I want to share something deeply personal. It's about the force behind everything I do, my burn. It's powerful, it's profound, and it's deeply rooted in my why. My son CJ is my burn. His memory fuels my everyday, pushing me to live with intention and purpose. His spirit is my guiding light, my reason for being. As I write about CJ, I'm reminded of the strength he showed us all. Journaling about him helps me reconnect with that strength, weaving his memory into my daily purpose. The burn ignites when your deepest why and purpose align. For me, it's about embodying the lessons CJ left behind, embracing resilience, spreading hope, and impacting lives. This tattoo is more than ink on my skin. It's a declaration, a promise that CJ is watching over us, inspiring us to live greatly. As we each find our burn, let's channel it to make a difference, to honor those who inspire us, and to live with powerful purpose.
So let me tell you something about CJ. He gives me the strength to be up here right now. He was here for 18 hours. But what he taught me in that 18 hours keeps me going every day. He watches everything that I do, the good and the bad. Like I can feel that happening. So I've done a lot more good than bad. I still do bad stuff sometimes, but as a whole, I know the strength that I get from him. I'm not saying that your burn needs to be something like that. It can be anything else. But if you don't have something you're connecting to on a personal level to push you to that next step, you're going to be stuck where you are right now. Or you may go backwards, something that's going to keep you going. I don't share that story because I want you to feel sympathetic for me or anything else. I share it with you because it's part of who I am, right? I think too many times people get on stage and they don't tell you exactly who they are. I'm very transparent about who I am. I'm a hot mess, okay? I just am. My coach will tell you that. We get on calls sometimes and I don't have my homework done. That does happen. But I know who I am. And I know that if I continue connecting to my burn and doing the things that I do on a daily basis, that I can get better. But why do I want to get better? I've been very fortunate in business in my career. I could have stopped a long time ago. But I realized I had something else to do, something else to prove. And it wasn't about winning awards. It was about impacting lives. It was about getting on stages, having one-on-one conversations. I'm blessed to have some of my clients in the room today and some really close friends of mine. That was my purpose all along, and I didn't realize it. See, I look back at all the adversity and the stuff I've been through. It's like, man, I could write this book, like it's be the worst book ever, all these bad things. But what were the good things that came on the other side of it? As I was laying in that hospital room, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm this close to the next big thing that's going to happen. What's that next big thing? I don't know, but I'm going to be prepared for it. And they can throw whatever they want at me, and I'll take it on. Because what did I say earlier? I'm not in it by myself anymore, right? I got somebody with me. And that's a bold statement to say from somebody like myself that has never got on stage and had a conversation like that. Like, never had that conversation. Who do you have with you? Who do you have in your corner? Who do you have that's going to push you to get there? If you don't have that person, then you need to find them. They're out there, okay? They're out there. See, the next part of my talk is going to be a little bit different than the tone we've been on right now. Is this just a suggestion, Adam, 20 minutes? Or like, is it like the speed limit in Florida? It's just a suggestion in Florida. It's not a real. Okay, all right. So I got 20 minutes. Okay. So August 31st of last year was my last day in corporate America. Yes. 2022, I got off the stage at I Love Coaching Summit, and I went to the airport, and there was another hurricane. So I sat at the airport for 9 hours. Well, not quite 9 hours, because I went to Virginia's on King Street and got some fried chicken. If you haven't done that yet, then you're missing out. And the pimento cheese dip has real cheese in it. Like, it's not like the stuff you buy in Florida. It's like, oh, yeah. Anyways, so I sit at the airport and I start going through my goals, what I want to do next. Like, what's the big thing? Because, like, we leave these events, right, and we're full of all this emotion. Like, I got to take action, right? I'm taking action. And it's October. So I start writing things down. And this was the 1st of November then. So I'm going through the notes. I'm like, what do I want to do? I want to change my circle. Because the people around me didn't understand me anymore. And I love them dearly. My wife is not that person. My wife is like, if CJ or if Leo hadn't been sick, she'd have been here today, and you'd have seen her. You'd have been like, how did you pull that off? I'm like, I'm a closer. Like, you know, I'm a salesperson. I'm a closer. Like, it took a lot of work, but I got to put together. But I've been able to keep her too for 12 years. That's the big, like, you know. But so I start defining what that looked like. And I'm really detailed in what I wanted it to look like. And I had this whole list of people that I wanted to meet. And at least I thought I wanted to meet them, right? Like, you ever meet somebody, you're like, oh, I can't wait to meet them. And you're like, oh, okay. That went the wrong direction real fast. So I had a few of those. I won't share who those are with you. But so I go through this list. And I had done this thing one time at that point called, well, I call it the One Jordan strategy. Anybody familiar with that? Anybody read my book? That's good. Okay, well, maybe a bit more. We'll read it now. But so I find the list of people I want to connect with, and I figure out a way to get their shoe size. I've never asked a woman their shoe size because I feel really uncomfortable with that, to be honest with you. So there's no women in the book yet. I just feel weird. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's me, but like, if I ask you your shoe, what's your shoe size? Isn't that kind of weird? Like, yeah. So I get assistants or friends of people or whatever to get a shoe size. And then I send one Jordan shoe and a handwritten note that says, if you want the other shoe, give me a call. And it worked. Like, it literally worked. Like, 7 or 8 in a row are calling my phone. These numbers from Texas and New York and Tennessee, all these people are calling me back. Like, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this worked. Is Alan in here? This is a great story about Dan Martell, Alan. You're gonna love this. So I'm like undefeated, 7-0, 8-0. I'm like, Adam, give me Dan Martell's shoe size. I'm gonna one Jordan Dan Martell. It didn't work very well. So I sent one Jordan to Dan Martell. He gets it. He doesn't get it, which is cool. I love Dan. It was the funnest, the chapter I enjoyed writing the most in my book. So he sends the shoe back to me. It's awesome, which is good because one shoe doesn't do me any good. I can gift it to somebody else, right? So I'm glad he sent the shoe back. But Adam leans on him and gets me 10 minutes, which, Alan, you know how hard it is to get 10 minutes with Dan Martell, right? So I got 10 minutes with 9-figure Dan Martell. We get off the call, and I'm so mad. I record the call, and I'm like, this guy. I call Adam up. I'm like, I can't believe this. And then I listen to the call again. And then I listened to my thoughts from the book I'd already read of his, and I said, oh my God, he's exactly what he said he was. He's exactly what he said he was. So I wrote a great chapter on Dan Martell. He's not in my circle yet, but I think we'll be there someday. But a lot of people are. A lot of growth has happened. But man, at first I was like, how dare you say no to me? I'm Chris Welton, one Jordan, baby. I'm 7-0. Don't you know who I am? Now, I've had several people since then not respond. So what I do now is if they don't respond, I send the second shoe and an autograph copy of the book, and if it happens, it happens. But the book was released on February 22nd or 23rd of this year. Within 24 hours, it was a bestseller in 6 categories. Okay, this is a guy whose English was not like, I barely showed up for that class in high school. That wasn't my thing. I was a math guy. I got a 1350 on my SAT, but almost a perfect on the math side, if that gives you any idea where the rest was. So, can you play that video for the Times Square video for me? So this is what happened after we became a bestseller. I'm going to Times Square For my one Jordan book, it's going to be on a billboard today. What an unbelievable day. Can you believe that? I can't even. I still watch that today, and I feel like I'm watching somebody else. Like they just photoshopped me in there, right? Like I always knew I'd be on a billboard in Times Square, but I thought maybe like America's Most Wanted, something along those lines. But there I am on a billboard in Times Square because I came up with a strategy to follow that I'd heard someone else say, so I took it and ran with it. But I followed through, I stayed committed to it, and then I had the support system required to get there. Adam, how many calls were we on? I said, I'm not going to finish the book. Yeah. Several. The book was due out in October. It came out in February, if that gives you any idea. Because I let what I call middle school Chris creep into my head. Does anybody else have a middle school person creep in? See, middle school Chris was 5'5", 160 pounds. Wasn't very well understood. Felt like he was alone for obvious reasons. He still shows up. He met me this morning when I got out of bed. Told me that I shouldn't be here today. The last thing I should do is come here. No one wants to hear me. No one wants to listen to me. But I listened to middle school Chris for too long. I do a pretty good job of pushing them out now because I have receipts. Anybody else have receipts? I've got receipts. What I mean by that is what I've been able to accomplish. And not in an arrogant way. I'm not trying to come across and be bragging about it. But why can't we take credit for the things we've done to push us forward to get through those tough times, right? So my wife is my number one receipt. There you go, look at that. I'm a winner there for sure. My kids, but my book, me leaving corporate America August 31st of last year to build my coaching company, my speaking business, to find the freedom to do what I wanted in life. So I can be home. I work from my home office. Tell me this isn't a dream. I have a home office at one end of my house. My wife goes to her medical practice 3 days a week. Those 3 days a week, we have a nanny. So I get to intentionally schedule playtime with my son. Think about that. I schedule playtime with my son throughout the day. If that's not a dream, I don't know what is. Because I missed out. I have a 31 and a 25-year-old daughter too. I missed out on those ones. Right? I was working and grinding. So I keep sending one Jordan shoes out to people. It's a consistent thing I do. I still have a list. I have several people I'm trying to connect with. Some people are good, some people aren't. But the best response I have ever received from sending out a shoe. I mean, let me tell you something. This is like, at anything that's ever been great in my life, this has got to be top 3 or 4. Okay? Can you play that call?
Hey, Chris, John Maxwell. I just returned your call, buddy. Where's my shoe?
He's the guy that sent me the one Michael Jordan tennis shoe and said, if you want the other one, call me.
Oh, I love it.
I'm using Chris right now as an example of how to get out of the people pile.
That is
Isn't that
so
fun?
good, Chris.
Oh my gosh.
What? I mean, like, seriously. Did that really happen? Like, he's the GOAT, right? He is, for what I want to do and who I want to become, he's the guy you'll always look up to. He's that guy. And I sent one Jordan and he called me. I didn't answer because he's got a West Palm number. I thought they were trying to sell me a car warranty. But I called him back. And I still text him from time to time and he responds. He literally used the lesson of getting out of the people pile off the one Jordan strategy on stage at events. I have people DM me on LinkedIn or Instagram I've never met before, and they say, hey, are you the Chris Welton that sent John Maxwell the shoe? He's on stage talking about you right now. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's very surreal for me to be able to stand here and share that stuff with you. Because again, 2 years ago, I got on stage for the first time. I didn't look anybody in the eye. I'm sure some of you were there when I got on stage that last time. There was a handful of you here that were there. I sweated through my suit. I looked like Coach Tartanian, if anybody remembers the old UNLV coach. Like I sweated through my suit. I was so scared. I sat out, it was the baseball field. I sat outside in the bleachers before I came in, and I went over and over and over again what I memorized what I was going to say. Today, I can be proud to tell you I didn't memorize one line about what I was going to get on stage to say. All I did was get on stage and speak from my heart, okay? And tell you if you're stuck, if adversity is playing a toll on you right now, it's just a step you got to go through to get where you want to go. What if adversity is the goal? What if it's the goal? Because I know this to be certain. You're either going into a storm, you're coming out of a storm, or you're in the middle of a storm right now. It just doesn't change. Everything was so great 3.5 weeks ago. We were doing amazing things. I had everything mapped out to get up here. My whole family was going to come on this event, come here, and I was going to share this community, and my wife would see that, meet everybody I know, and everything was going to be great. And then the hurricane hit, and then the health issues hit. But I didn't let it stop me. I didn't let it hold me back. See, one of the things that I believe is my strength is I show up when I'm supposed to, and even then some. And I hope that the people that have worked with me in this crowd can know that if they've needed me, I've been there, right? I was told a long time ago that the best ability in any industry is availability. And I don't mean that on-call, 24/7 crazy stuff for the client who wants to put an offer in at midnight. Because I've had to do pre-approvals at midnight when I was in the mortgage business. Like, what? Why? The bank's not even open. I mean for the people that truly need you, right? The people that are stuck in a spot. How can we be available to them? Because see, we have a responsibility. If you're in this room today, you have a responsibility to learn something and take it back and teach somebody else. Adam taught me the change, apply, teach, and I use that at every event I go to, every podcast I get on. I teach that to my clients. So what is it you're going to help people with? What are you going to take away from my talk today, if anything, if it impacted you, to help somebody else? Because that's how my brain works. If you come to me and have a conversation, I'm going to start thinking about ways I can help. It's just how it works. Tim and I have had some great conversations over the years, and that's the conversations we have back and forth is the same thing. Man, this has been just unbelievable that I made it here today, to be honest with you. I'm on a 12 on my pain right now, but I'm numb because I feel the love in the room, okay? Can we show them the file? Let me put my screen back up with my Instagram and stuff on it real quick. So if you have not followed me on Instagram, go to One Hand at a Time, okay? If you will DM me, ILC, I'll send you a couple free gifts, okay? One is one chapter of my book. The other one is this thing I do called The Undefeated Morning, which is this title of my next book that comes out next fall, okay? And you'll get put on a mailing list, so you'll know when those books come out and that kind of stuff. I'm not a spammer. I'm not going to try to eat, because that's too much work. But we will stay in contact. If you don't follow me, please follow me, check it out. There's a lot of good stuff on there. And if you could, I want to end on a great note. How much time we got? 6, okay. One more story here, and then we'll end here. I don't know if I have time for this or not. So CJ passed in 2020. We decided to go through IVF again. First time, it didn't work. The next time we go all in. We're super blessed, have a very strong embryo. Nikki gets pregnant. And we're coming down to the finish line, and we're having some mild challenges. The day before we go in the hospital, something bad happens. Nikki has some issues. We're literally packing to go to the hospital. And I had to call an ambulance. We had to take her from Lake Mary, Florida to downtown Orlando, which is a 40-minute car ride at 8 in the morning in traffic via ambulance. I'm following the ambulance driving to the hospital. And of course, what am I thinking? Here we go again, right? Like what's happening next? When I look back on that now, I realize there was somebody in my passenger seat with me, kind of helping me get there. I beat the ambulance to the hospital, which is crazy to think. I run in there. They get her stable. He's okay. They say, we're going to keep our monitors tomorrow. Because they brought a whole team in to deliver. There was some issues that needed to go through. We had to bring a special team into this hospital to deliver Leo. Strong, like everything's strong about Leo. There's no issues at all, but Nikki has some minor stuff. They deliver Leo. There's like 20 doctors in this room. It was the craziest thing ever. So I'm in there. They deliver Leo, and he cries. I can still hear it. It was the most beautiful sound I've ever heard in my life because CJ never cried. Leo cried. My wife is on this table. They get him all good, and I take it. She's in surgery for 5 more hours. I'm sitting in the room holding my newborn baby, wondering if I'm going to have to do this on my own. I don't know if she's going to make it or not. You know, she would not let them put her under while they operated on her for those 5 hours. She stayed awake the whole time. You know why she stayed awake? Because she wanted to be able to get out of that room and grab a hold of that boy and not have to go through the recovery of waking up. She is an absolute savage. Leo is incredibly healthy. He's just an unbelievable kid. I'm very blessed to have him, so I want to share a picture of him with you real quick, okay? You see that last picture? There you go. Yeah. So that's what it's all about. That's what it's about for me. I'm very fortunate and blessed to have that. I'm very blessed to be on this stage, to figure out a way to get through adversity, turn it into strength, and understand there's opportunity on the other side. I hope that I've impacted at least one person in this room today, and it's been my pleasure to stand up here and talk to you.
Nice job, Mr. Welton. Nice job.
Thank you for tuning into the One Hand at a Time podcast. Please make sure you like and share the episode. And we'll see you next time here at the One Hand at a Time podcast. Make it a great day.